I was wondering if I might have a word with you, Professor Smart.
Yes, of course, Mohammed. How can I help you?
Well, I was wondering if today we can really speak of a truly international system of law.
Why do you ask that?
To my mind, the international system of law to which you refer could, in fact, be better described as the propagation of Western values on an international basis.
But, Mohammed, the United Nations is made up of the quasi-totality of states existing in the world today.
I don't deny that.
Then where's the problem?
The problem is that most of them are just spectators sitting in the UN General Assembly in a process dominated by the West.
Well, I suppose that's right, but that reflects the dominance of Western values, surely. And it is not just the West, Mohammed. There are also countries such as China and Russia and the Europeans that are all strong and influential.
Well, that explains their economic and political dominance, but it does not explain their moral dominance. In fact, they have no moral legitimacy and hence no moral dominance. The majority of people living in the world today do not share these values, values that are being foisted upon them by the Western powers by way of a supposedly international complex.
Well, you're not completely wrong, Mohammed. It is true that the present system is far from perfect, but I could counter your argument. Firstly, it is true that international law reflects the dominance of the Western agenda that led to its development. But have you an alternative? It's one thing to tell me what's wrong, but another to tell me how it could be better. Don't reject, suggest. Do you have a better alternative that would actually work?
Yes, the United Nations should be truly democratic, with each nation having one vote. That way, its decisions would be legitimate and truly international in character.
Yes, it would be truly democratic, but it would also be a mess. Moreover, why should a country like the United States or China, which between them possess much of the world's economic, political and military power, agree to have the same influence as a small island nation such as the Seychelles? You have to be practical, Mohammed. Countries like the United States, China or Russia demand the representation their economic and military power implies. Also, to speak of entities such as the United States or China as countries is a false description. You can't compare them to an independent island in the Caribbean. Countries like this are huge melting pots of different ethnic groups representing millions of people. It's normal that they have greater influence.
Greater influence? Okay, but total domination? That is another thing.
Is there really total domination?
Well, it looks like that to me.
Example?
The Second Iraqi War. I believe an international coalition was developed to promote the domestic agenda of one state, and it appears international law was manipulated to promote this end.
But is not all law at heart a manifestation of political power? Justice is an attribute of a successful legal system, but it is not necessary for its actual creation.
Perhaps, but then stop telling me it is a system of international law. It is a system of promoting Western interests that are applied internationally.
Well, that's certainly partly true, but perhaps the success of international law is to be found in the very weaknesses that you pointed to as justification.
How?
Well, you mentioned how the US manipulated the international system to promote its own ends. Even accepting that is true, which you do not necessarily accept, surely the fact that a country as powerful as the USA considered it necessary to establish a coalition and canvass the United Nations is proof that international law is increasingly important. The US could have invaded Iraq on its own, which in any event it effectively did, without having to consult with the United Nations. But it didn't, because it felt constrained by international law.
Well, it is not ideal, Professor.
No, it's not, Mohammed. But nothing's perfect. We're on a road and we're getting there. Political realities have to be reflected in the character of any system we recreate. Indeed, as the US power is on the wane, we are seeing the increasing presence of the BRIC economies in the international process. This is inevitable indeed. I think the high water mark of Western influence has been reached. Perhaps for some systems this has occurred after the damage has been done. But this is the nature of the evolution, Mohammed.
I'm not sure I'm convinced by everything you say.